Hey guys, what is up? Welcome to Show It Better. My name is Steven, and in today's video, I want to show you guys how to create this urban perspective that I had a lot of fun doing because this was like a multi-perspective. As you can see, we have this perspective view over here, and then we have this plan view right here. So this can, if we put it in full screen, this can basically work for your presentation boards. If you want to mix one of these two, it can look very interesting. This is for an urban project. I don't know how it would look for an architectural project. I think if you do it in the right way, it can look good. But for now, I tried it with my urban thesis project that's kind of old now. But I want to show you guys how I got to this image. Now, I want to remember that if you want to see the whole video of how, I think it was 2 hours me making this. And if you want to have access to this Photoshop file, you can go to my Patreon page and also support the channel if you want. And if not, then let's take a look at this video, right? So first, what I did was go to my Sketchup file. As you guys can see, this is my Sketchup file right here. And this is my model, and if you take a look, it's a very normal model. Now what you have to save two views. So you have to save the perspective view. So my perspective view was kind of like this, but the first thing you have to do is create a section, right? Because it needs to know you need to know where it's going to end, right? So if it's going to end right here, you need to create a SketchUp section. What I did was I created a section, which I think is over here right now. Let me just see. This one's it. So I'm going to click on activate cut, and this is going to be the section. The first thing that I had done was just rendered it like this, but I didn't realize that if I didn't have these lines vertically, like if I didn't have them 2-point perspective, it wasn't going to work as well. So what I recommend you guys do is go to camera and go to 2-point perspective, and that is just going to align your whole vertical lines and make it look like more ordered. When I had these other type of images, it didn't work. So this is the first step, and you have to go over here and save the scene, which I already do. I have the scene saved right here, and then you have to save the second scene, which the second scene is going to be a plan view. Go over here to top, and this view obviously has to be in parallel projection, so you don't have any perspective on it, and you just align it and then you render it. So what I did was I rendered these two images. So if you guys take a look at the renders, this was my render. I think it was about 10 minutes. It wasn't that much. What I do recommend is that you guys have these renders in very high resolution. So if you guys have to zoom in, make the image bigger, then it just gets a little bit blurry in about here. But if you see it right here, which is a big size, then no problem. I also exported the render ID, obviously, with all of this. And then I did the same with my plan view. So as you guys can see, this is my plan view. These are some things that we have already covered in past videos on how to do this ambient occlusion Q&A rendering. If you haven't seen these videos, you can go to my channel. And yeah, basically I had both images, and I also exported, as usual, the lines for these two images. So the line file, so this for this one and for this one. Since these lines are also in a very big size, they are kind of heavy, but it's okay. Okay, so I'm going to walk you guys through this Photoshop file of how it works and how the process was a little bit. What I did was I imported both of these files and I put them in each folder separately. So this group 1 is the plan view, and this group 2 is the perspective view. So if I press Ctrl T and separate this, you guys can see that this is the whole perspective view, which I already cropped because this was everything that I needed. And this top view, I also erased the background right here, and I aligned it in such a way that the streets met right here. It wasn't that exact, but it was more or less exact. And the next thing that I did was I put these two in one folder, and I created a hue saturation adjustment layer. So you go over here, you stand on top of the folder, then go to hue saturation, and then you colorize this, and you're like, what color do I put? Remember that I made a while ago a video on color palettes? Well, if you use one of the color palettes that I gave for free, or that you can still find for free, or you can create your own color palette, I put my own color palette right here. As you guys can see, this is more or less aligned to the color palette, and this was the final result, the final color that I decided for. Then I added a section cut, and then I added some 2D trees. So as soon as you guys have this, the thing is, we have to start to add texture, add life to this image. And we're going to do the following, right? This is like the same process. We're going to add a texture for the street. And remember that the street is over here on the plan view and on the perspective view. So we have to unite all of these. Then we have to add a texture for this area over here for the pedestrian area. So since I exported with my with each of these views, I exported a line file. As you guys can see here, we have the line files. This is the line file for this project. So what you do is go to W for keyboard, then you select the streets, and then you have the selection of the street. Now you go to the line file of the perspective view, and then you select the streets as well with the plus button. And then you have both of the streets selected. We're going to erase this from the selection because we don't need this right here. And after I have this, I go to a new layer, create a new layer. I colorize it. I, color all of this. As you guys can see, it's all in one layer. I think this was added right here. It's not intentional. Let's just erase this. And what I do is I add a texture. So I'm going to right click over here, go to blending options and go to pattern overlay. As you guys can see, there's a texture added because I added a pattern right here, which was set to multiply, and in which I can change the scale of this pattern. Now I had already added one of these, so I'm going to turn this off. And this is the street texture I added, and the colors, I added it in another layer, which was this one, which, it just goes with the color palette, but it's the same process. And after this, I added some people. As you guys can see, and as this is a motif of this channel, the people is just put a B for brush, select some people right here, make them a little bit smaller, then start painting the people in. And this is, you do the same with people and with trees. So what I did, in the perspective view, I added these people, but in the top view, I added, some dots, right? So that's how the people were going to look from the top view. So if I added one of these circle brushes and I just start painting in, that is how the people look. Obviously, if this was a more detailed architectural plan, I would use real people. But in this case, the real, this is like the maximum zoom you're gonna have. So it's not really worth it to spend all that time on little people. And after this, I also added some trees, which was also from this color palette that you guys can see over here. And the trees is basically the same thing. You go to the brush, select the circle brush, and start painting in some trees, right? So I added 2 colors of trees, this tree and this green tree, and that was it. And for this top, or this perspective view, I have some saved trees right here. I have 2 types of trees. I have this triangular tree, and I have this circular tree. And that's how I added all the trees right here with the color palette. I think, like, if you learn anything right here, it's the color palette. People, seriously, the color palette is going to give, the color palette and the textures is going to give like the whole meaning to this image. Because as you guys can see, if we turn this color, let's see, if we turn this off, it looks very ugly. So the thing is, the color, man, the color is everything right here. Then what I did, the next step was I added some crossing, in Spanish we call them zebras, but I don't know what's called in English. I think with some crossing paths, some crossing ways, which was just, me going over here, creating a new layer, then with a marquee tool, coloring this white or black, no, white. And then I just repeat it, copy this, repeat it, and then I paste all of it over here. So that is basically the process for creating a zebra. We call them zebras, but I think everywhere it's called zebras, right? The next step that I did after the zebras was I added some cars. So these cars I downloaded from a page called Free Model CAD or freemodel.com, which is just, free AutoCAD blocks. And I exported this AutoCAD block as a PDF file, and I just repeated it and pasted it all over the place, as you guys can see right here. And now we have a very interesting image. Now what we need to do is solve this background. Now for the background, I added a base image. As you guys can see, this is a normal color which has a pattern overlay, as you guys can see right here. It's like a bluish pattern overlay. Very interesting. Now I added the sun. How do I add the sun? Go and look for a texture. So if we look for, let's say, a Photoshop texture, let me see. Textures. So let's see, I added this texture right here. I go to add layer mask, and on top of this, I press Control I. So it disappears. Now I go to B for my brush tool, select my circle brush, which is right here, and I click on it with the white selected, right? So I press on white, make sure it's on top, and I have a kind of sun, right? So I colorized this sun according to the color palette of the whole image, and then I added some perspective lines, which you can just Google perspective lines, and you know, these are the perspective lines. You can't see them that much. These are it. And then I added some clouds. Now, Steven, how do you add this clouds? Now let me just show you. You create a new layer, right? Let me just turn these off. I'm gonna create a new layer. Now I'm gonna go to B for brush tool, select the white brush, and with the brush more or less thick, I'm just gonna create a straight line by pressing shift on my keyboard. Now I'm going to start painting in some circles right here and just start creating the cloud, you know, being very creative, and maybe just extending this a little bit, and like this can be our first cloud, and now you can create another one and another one. That is how I think I created like 2 types of clouds, and then I just resized them, and that was basically it. It sounds, I think it's a very easy process. Like right now it sounds very easy, but if you don't have like the steps solved out in that way, maybe it can get a little bit hard at the beginning. It certainly was like that for me, because I didn't really know how I was going to take, how long I was going to take, but I really liked the result. Yeah, I hope you guys like this. Maybe, you know, after this you can also change the color palette a bit. You can go over here to hue saturation and make the color palette, I don't know, maybe this was the result. I hope you guys liked this result. If you guys are interested in seeing the whole, you know, 2 hours, 3 hour video, and having access to this Photoshop file where you can, you know, see the secrets behind these clouds, the cars, the trees, everything, then you can go to our Patreon page and download this. You will have access to this file and to all the files of all the videos and all of the long form videos. And if not, then you guys can keep watching on our YouTube channel. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a happy week, and let me know what you guys thought about in the comments, if you guys liked this kind of videos and if you want to see a little bit more of these videos. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.